Custom brushes can completely transform your artwork, from decorative frames to textured rich backgrounds and even cake decorations. But most artists don't actually understand how they work. Today, I'll show you how to create them properly and how to use them for borders, backgrounds, and decorative elements. To access the brush setting, click the wrench icon in the tool property of a brush. A custom brush is simply an image material stamped repeatedly along your stroke. That image then becomes the brush tip of your brush. The spacing between each stamp is controlled by the gap setting. The thickness controls how wide or narrow the brush tip is drawn. And density controls the opacity and buildup of your brush tip. There's also color mixing, which allows your brush to act as a blender. Additionally, you can add texture to your brush. Texture will give your brush a rugged pencil-like feel instead of the inking style. To summarize, the main important settings you can change are brush tip, thickness, gap, texture. Then we also have stroke and color mixing. There are multiple settings you can change. However, you should start with the main ones until you get used to them, and then move to more complicated settings. If you create a brush in monochrome, it contains only black and white. When you use it, black becomes your main color and white becomes your subcolor. For grayscale brushes, your brush stores tonal values. Black maps your main color, white takes the subcolor, and gray values blend between both. If you create a brush in color mode, it stores RGB information. When used, it keeps its original design colors. But how exactly do you set color mode? When creating a new canvas, you can choose the color mode you want. Color, gray, and monochrome. These are the available modes. If we were to choose monochrome for our brush making, the only colors we can draw with are black and white. Dark colors will be painted in black and light colors will be white. This means that if you create a brush tip in monochrome, for example these flowers, and then use them on an RGB canvas, your flowers can only take the main and subcolors. All right, let's make our first custom brush. We'll make a vine of leaves and blueberries. Start with a grayscale canvas mode, then draw curvy vertical lines. You can add some random leaves to the vine. I use vector layers to draw my lines, and then rasterize them before saving the brush tip. Following the same drawing, copy-paste it or redraw the lines, and change the leaves placement, and add some berries for variation. By the end, you should have a couple or more variable vines to use for your brush tip. Now, this is the trick to make this work. Convert all your layers to image by long-clicking each layer and selecting Convert Layer. Now choose the type as an image material layer. Do the same thing for all your vines. Next, enable tiling for each image by going to Object and scrolling down to Tiling. Click the check mark and choose only vertical tiling direction. Follow the same steps for all layers of your vines. While all layers selected, use the Move tool to move them up slightly until you see the disconnection. Now rasterize all layers and redraw the connections more cleanly. This will ensure your lines stay connected when you use them as the brush tip. Now erase leaves and extra elements that are too close to the top or bottom and are incomplete. If your vine feels empty, you can redraw some leaves in the middle section. Now that all our vines are well made, we can move to the next step. Use the rectangle selection tool to select the entire canvas. Then, go to Edit Register Material and choose Image. This menu allows you to save your material as a brush tip. Give your brush tip a name, then enable the use for brush tip shape setting. Choose a folder to save it in and hit OK. Now repeat the same steps for all brush tips to save them. To use our newly created brush tips, duplicate a pen brush, give it a new name, and choose a relevant icon. Import the tips from the Subtool menu one by one. You can search for them by their name or simply scroll down until you find them. Once you've added all your brush tips, they will all show up in the brush tip panel. Now our brush looks a bit messy and nothing like we wanted it to be. What's wrong? We're actually one button away from making this work as intended. Once you activate the ribbon setting, your brush instantly takes the intended form. You can choose a repeat method that works for you. Here I set it to random. This allows the brush tips to appear at random positions. That's it. You can now use your vine brush and create variants however you want. Using our previous knowledge, let's now create a creamy, delicious brush. To make a cream brush, we need to follow the shapes of the actual cream piping accessories. Create the brush tips like earlier by drawing a star with black outline and white filling. Duplicate a pen brush and import the new tip we created. Using this as it is, however, gives bad results. So what went wrong? The problem lies with the thick black outlines and also the lack of shadows in our cream tip. By removing the outline and adding darker shadows, we can obtain a 3D-looking cream. Try out different variations for different cream shapes. Remember that, if you want your brush to paint in colors, you have to draw the brush tip in grayscale and then use it on a color canvas. Custom brushes can be used to fill in backgrounds quickly. Solid color backgrounds are quite dull and boring. Using custom brushes makes them more interesting and gives the illustration a finished look. Use them to create interesting backgrounds quickly. You can also use custom brushes to give your characters more props and design elements. Using the transparent color, you can create unique frames with custom brushes that are designed in a dark color. Just select your brush, choose the transparent color, and draw as you would usually. Now, if you remove the background or change its color, you can see the effect clearly. You can use custom brushes with the figure tool to create unique borders. Choose a custom brush, and in brush shape, click on Add to Preset. Now you can choose a figure tool, for example, the rectangle tool. Scroll down on the tool property until you see brush shape. Click on the down arrow, and a list of brushes will appear. At the top, you'll see the brush you just added to the presets. Clicking on a brush will make the rectangle be drawn in that brush. This is very useful when you want to have unique borders, but can't draw them by hand. If you create brushes for fruits, cream, filling, and cake base, you can basically make any cake flavor you wish for. You can't eat them, but they're pretty cute and fun to share with your friends, or maybe to send on birthdays as a unique gift that you made yourself. It sure would be heartwarming to receive a handmade illustration on special occasions. Did you know you could also easily design coloring pages using custom brushes? Custom brushes on Clip Studio Paint are free for commercial use. I designed this simple but fun coloring page using my fruits custom brushes. I definitely enjoyed coloring it bit by bit. We reached the end of this tutorial. Did you find it fun to watch? Let me know in the comments below. If you want a written tutorial, be sure to check the links in my description below.